So I'm sure many of you have noticed the similarities between Jason and Arthur Morgan by now. I'm not gonna lie, this was something I picked up heavily after trailer 2 and pretty much can't unsee. I made a video going over how RDR2 is gonna be the blueprint for GTA 6, not only mechanically but narratively as well. I believe that Jason resembling Arthur is no coincidence, and I kinda wanna delve more into why Rockstar made that choice. My theory is that Rockstar are fond of making these macho-esque characters to keep players' guards down. Now, hear me out. When Arthur was first shown, most people didn't really like him. People were saying he looks boring and looks like a generic cowboy. And that was pretty much the general consensus until we actually play the game. Now, that's absolutely how Arthur came off when we first started playing. But the more we got through the game, the more we saw the layers unfold. And when the end of the game finally came around, most people agreed that this might have been one of the greatest protagonists ever made. What Rockstar did was slowly unravel a seemingly generic anti-hero that showed his humanity as the game progressed. Since this was so successful, I have no doubt in my mind that this is exactly the same route they're gonna go when it comes to Jason. First, let's talk about both characters' physicality. Funny enough, both of them are the exact same height, coming around to 6'1", and have a pretty solid frame. Now, this isn't huge, but it's big enough to play the enforcer role. Both of them appear to have an intimidating presence that's perfect for an outlaw or a criminal role. Not only do they look tough, but they both have a similar vocal tone as well. Now, while we haven't heard Jason speak too much, we've heard enough of him talk to hear that he has a relatively deep voice, with a commanding tone just like Arthur. This is perfect for someone who's going to be robbing people and holding up stores. Their frames are also fairly wide, playing into the tough guy persona, especially with Jason being able to put on muscle. It's basically Rockstar showing us what Arthur would look like if he was able to work out in the gym. Now, what's even crazier is that they both share the exact same hair color, which in my opinion is a bit too on the nose. I feel like Rockstar could have made Jason have a more distinct look, but he almost literally looks like a modern and younger version of Arthur, leading many people to speculate that he might actually be related to Arthur somehow. Now, let's take a second to talk about that if it's even a possibility. I always get this comment when I make videos like this from people who cry and cry about how GTA and Red Dead are in separate universes, and I get why they would say that. See, the thing is that everything is changing with GTA 6, because why would the money in GTA 6 have the presidents from Red Dead 2? This is an actual fact that you guys can look up, as well as the same gun manufacturing Duke logo from Red Dead 2 appearing on a gun Jason is holding in one of the screenshots. If GTA and RDR2 were in separate universes before, maybe this is Rockstar officially bringing them together for GTA 6. For the sake of this convo, let's just agree that they take place in the same world. That being said, it's still pretty unlikely that Jason is related to Arthur, and I'll explain why. See, Arthur did have a son named Isaac, as some of you might know, but unfortunately, as we come to find out in one of the later missions in RDR2, we discover that his son and the woman he had her with were killed by bandits, while Arthur just wasn't around. After that, Arthur makes no other references to any relatives or descendants besides his father. Now, this is a stretch, but technically it could be possible that his father may have had some bastard child besides Arthur, being that Arthur describes his father as a no-good bastard who was also a criminal and a drunk. So it could have been a possibility that Arthur may have had a half-brother or sister theoretically out there somewhere. What's much more likely is that Rockstar saw the die-hard fandom that Arthur has and how well received he was as a character, and that they decided to essentially recreate that what people loved about him in a new character. This is a theory that makes the most amount of sense to me personally for a few reasons. Firstly, like I said, Arthur was one of the most beloved characters in all of Rockstar's game history. Second, considering that Dan Houser is no longer writing the game or making any of the characters, I believe Rockstar is strongly pulling from past games to make sure that players will resonate with themes and archetypes they've previously experienced. I also think that most of the experimentation is being done with Lucia, bringing something completely new to the GTA character space that players may or may not like. Jason, on the other hand, is almost like the insurance policy for the longtime Rockstar fans. Jason is the familiar and loved, while Lucia is the new and modern representation of Rockstar games. With all of this being said, I think that Jason will follow a similar, if not identical, arc that Arthur had. I mean, just look at how Jason is starting the game. Literally being a criminal who goes out and collects on debts and loans, just like Arthur was doing in the beginning of RDR2. That pair alone is pretty hilarious. So my guess is that Jason will start off as a cold and tough anti-hero who will slowly show his softer side as the story progresses, especially regarding Lucia. Now, I have a theory that Jason and Lucia may not start off the game dating. Yep, that's right. I actually don't think the game will introduce them as a couple, but instead make them partners for a short time and then have them start being intimate with one another. I may be wrong on that, but I think that it can be a great way for them to start peeling back the layers of Jason. He could start off as this player who isn't afraid to get his hands dirty, but slowly develops real feelings for Lucia, which would make him question what they're doing. I think at some point he may seriously come to second guess the criminal lifestyle and almost have the exact turnaround moment that Arthur had in RDR2. It may not be tuberculosis this time, but instead somehow be related to Lucia, especially with the rumors of her having a baby in the story. It would make a lot of sense for Jason to start thinking about family and the importance of keeping Lucia and her child safe that might get him to want to leave the criminal life behind. I think the reason that Rockstar might go down that path is because that's a tried and true narrative method that works. People love an anti-hero who gradually learns the errors of his ways and wants to redeem himself. People sure loved it with Arthur, so there's a good chance they'll just be safe and give the same arc to Jason. There's also mention of how Jason wants the easy life on the Rockstar website, and I think that's another hint that Rockstar is throwing at us, showing us that Jason might not be content with shooting people and robbing banks endlessly. There's also a lot of mention of how Lucia can either be the best or worst thing to happen to him, which in my mind is basically Rockstar saying that Lucia will be the Dutch in the story. What I mean by that is I personally think Jason will be loyal to a fault, just like, you guessed it, Arthur. I have a good feeling that loyalty will be a huge theme in the story. And just like what happened in RDR2, Jason's loyalty to Lucia is what will get them progressively more and more into trouble. I think the biggest difference we'll see this time around may be a bit more around player choice. There's a lot of talk about how there will be a relationship meter, just like the honor meter that's tying Jason and Lucia together. My belief is that we may have certain missions or events play out differently based on how that meter will work. And Jason might have several different fates depending on the choices that we as a player make. I strongly doubt Rockstar will lock us into an ending, and I have a feeling that we'll be able to pick which character matters more to us and choose what kind of ending we want. I really do hope we can get a happy ending for both of them, but we may not, and we may have to choose who out of the pair is getting out alive. And with all of that being said, I have no doubt in my mind that at least for Jason, his fate will mirror Arthur's strongly. And to be quite honest with you guys, I'm totally okay with that. I loved Red Dead, and I certainly don't mind having aspects of that game cross over into GTA. I have a good feeling that Lucia will be the real mystery, and it might be a bit tough to figure her out. Jason, on the other hand, honestly just seems like a carbon copy of Arthur, and who knows, I might be wrong, but I kind of doubt it. After everything we've seen, it really looks like that's the case. But anyways, now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know if you agree with me about Jason, and if you like the fact that him and Arthur will be very similar or not. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I love hearing from everyone, and I would also really like to hear what kind of videos you'd like to see me make going forward. Take care, and I will see you guys all in the next one. This is for those of you that have, finished watching the video. This is a shout out for my manager. Here she is. She just wants to let you guys know that she's tired of me not being a big YouTube star, and that she wants me to finally make it so I can buy her all the treats and toys that she wants. I mean, look at her. She looks pretty unhappy. And she looks like, it's about damn time that we start getting somewhere. So make sure to like and subscribe so that she will turn that frown upside down. All right, take care, everybody.